Well, hello everyone. It's Wednesday, the 9th of July, and I'm Andy coming to you from the UK.
And I'm Scott coming to you from Toronto.
Well, that's very clear from your outfit. What's going on there, Scott?
Well, Andy, it ties into my story. So let me just kind of roll right through to that since you prompted.
But before you do, I think it's very important that we let the listeners know that this is the Tea and Timbits podcast, global perspectives on business development to help you prosper. And now they know that, you can tell us a little story about your outfit and everything that's going on with Canada and Toronto today.
Indeed. So for those listening, not watching this podcast, pretty much head to toe in Toronto Blue Jays attire. Andy, the Toronto Blue Jays are, just to explain this to those on your side of the pond here, are a Major League Baseball team.
Baseball?
And what's that?
What's baseball?
Yeah. Never mind. So anyway, professional sports team here in Toronto, and they're on a 10-game win streak. Now, they started the season kind of iffy, kind of shaky, and a few games ago, they just finished defeating the New York Yankees in a 4-game series. And that's a big freaking deal. And then they've gone on to continue to win, and they played LA, and now they're playing the White Sox, and they just can't. They're just unstoppable right now. They can't stop winning. So we are a baseball house. My son's a big baseball player, so I just thought I would don the apparel and support the home team and celebrate the wins.
Fantastic. And who are they playing today?
They're playing Chicago again. So in baseball, you play usually 3 games back to back, and then you move on to another city and you play a few games, and then on you go. So sometimes it's 2 games, sometimes it's 4 games. So yeah, I think they're playing Chicago again today.
Yeah, and I've just noticed I'm actually also color coordinated as well.
I like it. Your pocket square there.
There you go.
Well done.
It's like I knew subliminally that the things were going well, so I had to support.
So let me tie this into business now, because I did think about how to sort of connect, draw that thread here. So we were recently working on some internal strategic planning, and it was a lot of work, and it continues. But we ended up in a place where we got a pretty good initial draft of the strategic document that we were working on building. And so much work, went in meetings, and it was months, and we hired outside support on it and whatnot. And we recently, got this initial draft completed, and it was kind of like, okay, check, wake up the next day. And it's just as important to celebrate those little milestones. These baseball players, they celebrate every single win. They celebrate the back-to-backs plus the one that gets them out of the losing streak, and they have to wake up and play another game the next day or the day after that, and do the same thing again. So it can be very rote and mundane, but sure, there's a lot more energy in professional sports. But I was just reflecting on that as I was getting ready to share this story. And it actually made me realize that there's probably a lot more in the business that needs to be recognized and celebrated as a true, honest win that is going to contribute to your overall record. And I started making some notes about some of these things, one of which being the completion of this strategic document, which we just kind of recognized with a sigh of relief rather than congratulatory applause. So I'll be taking that back and doing something about that in the next few days on the business front, but thought I would share that story and how I connected those dots in my head leading into this conversation.
I'm really curious now, though, what this means for the Toronto Blue Jays that having had such a winning streak. Does it mean that they're going on to win something big at the end of it, or?
Very good question. Well, actually, since you've asked, um, they were doing well in the standings. They had been sort of chipping away and moving up, but they were in the mix for sort of top place in their division. And the top team was the New York Yankees. And so in baseball, the standings are based on how many wins you have. I mean, I guess most sports it's how many wins you have, but when you win a game, you move up by half a game because somebody else has to lose for you to move up a full game. And so if everybody's playing on the same day, then everybody moves up or down by a whole game, but sometimes it's offset. So when you're playing a team that you're neck and neck with, each game moves one team up by half and one team down by a half. So you get these bigger jumps in separation. And so going into the Yankees series, they were down by a few games. They played 4 against them, won all of them, and ended up 1 game ahead. They've continued to move on, so they're in top place in their division. So we're halfway through the season. So a lot more could change, and they could go through a slump that would reset everything. Got to caveat all of this as a true sports fan, especially in the city of Toronto. But at the moment, they're sitting on top, so we're all excited.
Well, that's great news and a great way to start the episode and the summer period. So, can't complain about any of that. I fully understand why you're being so supportive of the of the team and of the game of what was it, baseball?
Baseball,
Yeah,
yes,
baseball. Okay,
yeah. Come on over. I'll take you out. We'll explain it then.
that sounds like a deal. You see, I'm familiar with ice hockey, and I went when I was in Toronto. Probably the first time I went and saw a game with the Maple Leafs, I think it is the ice hockey team. Yeah, so that was very exciting, and I really enjoyed that. And that was my first experience of ice hockey. So I'm happy to experience my first game of baseball in Canada as well. Even though I only thought it was an American game.
To discuss to sort of set your expectations, it's very different, but yeah.
Very good. So this week's episode, though, you had chosen a topic called clarity break.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that at all. So I haven't been able to prepare anything for this episode, but I'll see how I keep up as you explain this to me. What was meant by it? Where did it come from? And what should our listeners gain from listening to our discussion?
Sure. So quick definition and where did it come from? A clarity break is just a moment, a time, a block in your schedule where it's literally just you and a pen and paper. And it's got to be a certain substantial amount of time. I think half an hour is enough. An hour might be ideal, but the key thing here is it's unstructured, it's unprepared, and it's unsupported by your phone, other technology, other inputs. It's literally you in your own headspace. And I think the other thing that differentiates this from just going on a hike or a run without your earbuds is the pen and paper. It's when we get those moments to sort of be alone with our own thoughts, sometimes we don't have the capacity to sort of capture some of the inspiration and insight that comes from that time. So it's more purposeful than just detaching from technology and escaping from the rat race. It's actually meant to add more clarity, purpose, and substance, and to the rat race. So it's borrowed from, and maybe that's a generous word, it's taken directly from the EOS framework, entrepreneurial operating system. And I heard about it from my business coach, Brian Neal, which is sort of the group that you and I originally met through as well. But I just really liked this concept, and I had never heard it formalized before, and so I thought that it was worth chatting about. Now, like, we don't prep for these conversations. You were like, okay, you know what? Let's just hit record and start talking about it, and that will probably be a good way to structure the episode. But just before we hit record, you and I were talking about event planning and some of the other work that each of us had been doing separately, and sort of the need for some recovery after that. Now, I think recovery and clarity are two different concepts here, but the idea of sort of booking the time for that kind of reflection is the concept that we're going after. What do you make of that concept now that I've sort of explained it in more detail?
Well, I think it's incredibly valuable, especially this time of year, as everybody's getting involved in many, many different things. And I think having that time to reflect and having that time to consider and taking that moment to, how can I put it, sort of, I suppose, pause briefly for these things. And because I think one of the biggest things that people are guilty of is being busy.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's forgotten that, you know, if you find yourselves in that, or find yourself in that situation where you are, I don't know, believe that you're supposed to be busy, and you kind of put yourself in this situation where you've got it's kind of back-to-back meetings, and you know, you've got loads of emails coming in, you know, you're getting notifications from your, you know, your internal social media thing like Slack or whatever. And it's a lot of noise, but you're not actually having any time to lead your business or lead your customers or whatever your role is. You're not actually having any time to really do the job.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, I think it is like like I explained, it is meant to be a purposeful, directed moment, but in the moment itself, otherwise unsupported. And so that doesn't mean just sit there and stare at the blank wall and hope inspiration arrives. It is okay. In fact, I think if you follow sort of you know, if you really want to do this according to the defined structure from EOS, go ahead and Google it. And I use ChatGPT ahead of time to, you know, for some thought starters, which I'll just sort of read to get my my brain going. But then you're like, okay, clock starts now, clock finishes in an hour, and let's see what appears on this blank sheet of paper. So I really like what you said about sort of leading, using it as a leadership opportunity. What are your thoughts? I'm going to put you on the spot. Like, yes, from a leadership perspective, but from an individual contributor perspective, can you sort of comment on that?
Well, I think really the key is to sort of have a deliberate, non-negotiable, and this is the key, block of time away from your business to think about your business. So, you know, no screens, no meetings, you know, just sort of you, ideally, in my opinion, a notebook, you know, pen and paper, going back really traditional, and just really taking the time and having the courage to sort of ask those hard questions to yourself, to think about these things, and to really, really go into it in that, you know, in a focused and dedicated way that will allow you to mentally reset and then go back into, yes, it's not a way of saying, I'm not going to attend any meetings, I'm not going to interact internally, I'm not going to do any of these things. No, but it's taking the time to reflect on what are the most important things, what is bringing the most value, and where should you be spending your time, you know, not being busy doing nothing, but being busy doing something.
Now, how often do you think it would make sense to do this?
Well, if I'm honest, I used to do this every week.
Yeah.
And I've got very slack with it, and I now do it when I remember.
Right.
And I was very happy when I realized what this topic was about, because it was a reason for me to remember and to maybe reset that and put that up on my wall chart and remind me that I need to do this on a Friday afternoon or a Monday or a Sunday evening or whatever.
Right. Now, yeah, like interesting that you mentioned like evening, right? Like I think you have to be able to detach from the rat race, hop off that treadmill for the time you need to, and that is the most difficult part of doing this. And it's really sort of hard to resist the urge when you get into flow with this kind of time, and you're like, okay, I've got something here. Let me research it. Let me just check that. Let me just Google that. Wait a minute. Let me just put this into ChatGPT. Like, you really got to not do that, because then you've switched. Like, that's valuable, purposeful, productive, like, effort as well, but it's counterproductive to what we're talking about here. And so if you're someone that can only sort of maintain attention on a certain task for a limited amount of time, then be realistic and reasonable with yourself about sort of how much time your clarity break will be allotted. But really make sure that you're detaching from the distractions around you. And I think, to your point, if it's a Sunday morning, if it's a Wednesday evening that affords you the most likelihood of success, then that's a good self-realization. And in today's business world, I mean, 9 to 5 is gone anyway. So
yeah. But the important thing in all of this, and certainly from when I used to do this, it's not about just planning your next to-do list. It's not
right.
about that. It's not about reviewing your KPIs, and it's not about catching up on admin. This is very much about reflecting on you and the business as a whole. It's very much about deep strategic thought, and reflection, and if necessary, a course correction.
Now that's a really good point, and that is why I mentioned it is okay and often helpful, and something I do, which is to just review the list of thought starter questions that you get through Google or ChatGPT when you ask, I'm about to do a clarity break, what should I be thinking about? It'll give you sort of some thought starters, and that's just the nudge that I need to set the activity of the day aside and start thinking about things that are going to advance the objective of actually performing a clarity break. The other thing that I do at the beginning of the clarity break is write down my to-do list that's distracting me from having the clarity break time. So it's like, if I can just get that out of my head, my mind has a easier time avoiding coming back to it. Okay, good. Yep, I've captured it. I won't forget. I'll make sure to come back to it. I can now be intentional with this time I've got.
And one thing that's sort of just come to me as well, which takes us back to the last episode, or one of our earlier episodes on a similar topic, is the culture element of this.
Yeah.
Because if you're a leader, your culture and your performance and your people will not necessarily respond well to a busy leader. They don't need a busy leader. They need a clear leader, someone who's clear on where they're going. And that clarity brings the confidence that creates and fuels the culture.
Yeah.
So this is not just about individual contributors or about being a leader and about, having a reset. This is about the entire business culture and maintaining that, and your relationships with the customers as well as your colleagues and the business as a whole.
Absolutely. You're right.
You can't end on me being right. That's not good. Let's have a debate.
That's the only reason we do this podcast, Andy, is so that we sit in an echo chamber once a week and reconfirm.
And reaffirm each other's perfection. I like that. I'm okay with that. Well, this was our own clarity break, and it's clear that the Toronto Blue Jays, is it,
Yes.
are a fantastic baseball team.
Baseball. Yeah.
Baseball team, and are doing incredibly well, and we don't want to jinx it, and we both inadvertently happen to wear the colors of them today, so that's very good, and I wish them all the best in the future and their continued success in the competition that they are competing in. And if you have a business, take a clarity break and reflect on it, because it's good for you. And if you want to hear any of the other episodes where we have reaffirmed our own beliefs and perspectives, then please go to teaandtimbits.com, where you can listen to over a year's worth of episodes and really entertain yourself for quite a long time. Thank you very much, Scott.
As always, Andy. Thank you, sir.